11 Grammy Awards. Induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997. Rolling Stone called her one of the greatest songwriters ever. She found her voice after giving up her baby for adoption. Welcome to Bespoke Folks and Tales, where we combine the entertainment of storytelling with the fun of trivia. We tell trivia stories inside out. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Let's go!
You know the story. Young girl leaves home for the first time. Road trips cross-country with big ideas of making a name for herself in the big city. Girl meets boy. They sing, they dance, they play. Girl ends up pregnant. Boy leaves girl brokenhearted. That's where we pick up Roberta's story in 1964. She was 3 months pregnant as he walked out the door. She sat alone on the bed in that attic room. In that moment, our bright-eyed girl did the only thing she could do. She cried. She cried. She raged, and she cried some more. When she was done, the facts were still the facts. What now? She chided herself. The room was heated solely by a wood-burning fireplace. With winter coming, it was going to be cold up here. There was no money to upgrade her space. She'd already broken off a couple of the spindles from the banister for heat. Roberta sat for a long time, just thinking. Or at least trying to think. There weren't a lot of options for a girl in her situation. But time has a way of forcing the issue. 9 months later, Roberta gave birth to a healthy baby girl. In the hospital, Roberta gently squeezed the baby into her chest. The smell of her. It was so intoxicating she could nearly drink it. The sounds she made as she innocently slept. The beauty of her tiny fingers as they instinctively clenched her mama's finger. The hospital lady knocked softly as she entered the room with the paperwork. But Roberta couldn't quite make herself look up from the tiny child in her arms yet. She hummed to her. She smelled her head one more time. She squeezed her eyes shut and knew if she didn't do this now, she wouldn't have the strength to do it later. She gently lifted the baby to the woman, who tried to give her an encouraging smile. She might have said something, but Roberta couldn't hear the words through the scream of anguish in her mind. Swallowing, and then taking a deep breath, she turned to the paperwork and filled it out rapidly. The job done, woman and baby left Roberta sitting in the hospital bed. Once again, the tears streamed down her face as the piercing emotions took over. It was really for the baby's best, of course. There wasn't a lot of opportunity a 21-year-old single woman would be able to give a baby. And there wasn't a lot of opportunity for a 21-year-old with a baby. It had to be this way. But it cut like a knife in Roberta's heart and wounded her spirit. On her way out of the hospital, Roberta stopped and picked up a cheap notebook. That day she sat down and started writing. And writing, and writing. She wrote it all out. When she was done, she did feel somewhat better. At least it wasn't stewing in her brain anymore. She had to get back to work. She had to find her next gig. But the scene was intense and territorial. She couldn't sing just any song she wanted. She first had to check that nobody else would be singing the same songs. If you were a well-known singer, you could pick any song you wanted. You were given that privilege. But as a relative nobody, that same privilege wasn't given to her. That night after work, she came home. Still too wired to sleep, even though it was late, she started plinking absently at her guitar strings. Before long, a new melody started forming itself. She followed it and let it work itself into a song. She then turned to her notebook and found herself drawn to certain words and phrases as the lyrics began to form in her mind. Your kids are coming up straight. My child's a stranger. I bore her, but I could not raise her. It was soon thereafter, Roberta began singing songs no other artist would have, because she wrote them. As she sang these new original songs, their depth of feeling for love, loss, and longing pulled at new heartstrings, including her new fellas, Chuck. Chuck swept her off her feet, both with love as well as geography. He made Roberta the new Mrs. Mitchell, and the couple moved to Detroit, Michigan, where her career continued to blossom. But it wasn't Roberta Mitchell that would take the U.S. by storm. Roberta would use her middle name for that. It would be a certain Joni Mitchell that would be celebrated on the billboards and Grammys alike. At what point did you know who I was talking about? Drop me a comment below if you knew it was Joni Mitchell, and I'll see you next time on Bespoke Folks and Tales. If you like that story, you'll love this one. Check it out.